Our ceremony begins with the Canadian National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Notre cérémonie commence avec, au Canada, notre hymne national. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez s'il vous plaît vous lever.
You may be seated. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fran Sunshine. I am the National Chair of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem. It is a great and special honor for me to chair the ceremony along with my colleague, Bruce Kent, a Yad Vashem board member who will be our French MC.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Bruce Kent. En tant que membre du conseil d'administration de la Société canadienne de Yad Vashem et fils d'un survivant de l'Holocauste, la commémoration de la Shoah est une cause qui m'est très chère. C'est pour moi un grand honneur de présider la cérémonie avec Fran Sunshine, présidente nationale de la Société canadienne de Yad Vashem.
You're going to have to get used to seeing us bounce back and forth. On behalf of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem, I would like to welcome our very many esteemed guests, including Holocaust survivors and their families, the Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada, the Honourable Jeff Reagan, Speaker of the House of Commons, His Excellency Nimrod Barkan, Ambassador of Israel to Canada, the Honourable Harjit Singh Sajjan, Minister of National Defence, and representatives of over 50 diplomatic missions to Canada who are with us today. I'd like to take a moment to say how touched we are to see so many diplomatic representatives from countries across the world joining our ceremony. Will all the representatives of diplomatic missions who are here today please stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you so much. Wow.
Nous sommes heureux d'accueillir des membres du Conseil des ministres, des membres du Conseil privé de la Reine pour le Canada, l'honorable Andrew Scheer, chef du Parti conservateur et de l'opposition officielle, des juges de la Cour suprême du Canada, M. Jagmeet Singh, chef du nouveau Parti démocratique du Canada, Mme Elizabeth May, chef du Parti vert.
We also welcome Richard Marceau, sponsor of Bill C-459, the act that established Holocaust Memorial Day, Senator Linda Frum, a Yad Vashem devoted friend and donor, Michael Levitt, MP, a Yad Vashem dedicated friend. Linda and Michael are also sponsors of Bill S-232, the Canadian Jewish Heritage Month Act, which will, I believe, be enacted into law in time for the month of May. Congratulations on that. And over 50 members of Parliament. I'd like to take this moment to express on behalf of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem my heartfelt appreciation to all of those in our government who took the time to come to this ceremony. It is especially meaningful to see individuals at the highest levels of our national government show their support for Holocaust commemoration. May I ask all of our guests who represent the Canadian government, party leaders and representatives, members of the cabinet, members of the Queen's Privy Council for Canada, Supreme Court judges, members of the Senate, and members of the House of Commons to please stand up. Thank you so much for coming.
Nous accueillons également M. Jim Watson, maire d'Ottawa, Rabbin Reuven Bolka, Cantor Pinchas Levinson, des représentants de la coalition Zahor, un groupe d'organisations, d'écoles et de synagogues qui ont apporté leur soutien et consacré leurs énergies à l'éducation et la commémoration de l'Holocauste. Monsieur Mark O'Neill, président directeur général du Musée canadien de l'Histoire et du Musée canadien de la Guerre, Madame Caroline Dromagot, directrice générale du Musée canadien de la Guerre, et Esther Driam, directrice nationale de la Société canadienne de Yad Vashem.
At this time, I'd like to give a special thank you to the War Museum, Mark O'Neill and Carolyn Drumaget, for presenting an exceptional exhibit of the story of the St. Louis. I don't know if any of you were able to see it, but it's quite a wonderful exhibit, and we really appreciated that you did that for us. So thank you very much. Before we start the ceremony, we'd like to acknowledge our generous donors for the support of the national ceremony and for Ambassadors of Change program that precedes this ceremony. Brian and Andrea Kasoy, the Government of Canada, RBC Foundation, and the law firm Faskin and Edward Sunshine. For over 30 years, the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem has educated Canadians about the Holocaust through educational and commemorative programs. Our vital education programs teach young Canadians about the Holocaust, and in doing so, we instill the truly Canadian values of diversity, justice, and social inclusion. I would like to share with you some examples of our programs. The Ambassador of Change program that takes place immediately before the national ceremony brings high school students from across Canada to meet with Holocaust survivors here in Ottawa to participate in guided group sessions about the Holocaust and its relevance today. The program educates young Canadians to be more tolerant and inclusive in their communities. Participants of our Ambassadors of Change program are all here with us. They are an amazing group of young people. They are articulate, they are thinking, and you would all be very proud to hear them speaking about what they have learned during the session that they just went through. Would all of you who were part of the Ambassador of Change program please rise so we can recognize you? Come on, kids. Another program is our Holocaust Scholarship Program that awards scholarships to selected Canadian educators to participate in a 3-week seminar at the International School of Holocaust Studies at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. Once they are back in Canada, they implement new approaches and resources for teaching about the Holocaust to young Canadians in their schools and classrooms.
Le programme de jumelage est un autre programme qui permet d'initier les jeunes Canadiens à l'Holocauste. Plus précisément, elle permet aux jeunes qui vont célébrer leur bar et bat mitzvah d'en apprendre davantage sur l'Holocauste, en les jumelant à un enfant péri dans l'Holocauste. C'est une autre façon de bâtir un pont, un lien entre le présent et le passé. Mes 2 filles ont participé dans ce programme lors de leur bat mitzvah et c'était un moment, un événement incroyablement touchant pour elles et leur a souligné l'importance du Shoah et comment les Juifs sont chanceux aujourd'hui de vivre en sécurité ici au Canada.
As part of our Holocaust education programs, we also share stories with the next generation of Canadians about righteous among the nations. These are non-Jewish individuals who assisted Jews during the Holocaust. These stories emphasize that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary courage. The Canadian Society for Yad Vashem is the only organization in Toronto to have a Holocaust memorial site focused on the core fundamentals of Holocaust education and commemoration. Our amazing site, which is open to the public, serves as a gathering place to remember loved ones. Each year, the memorial flame is lit for 24 hours on Yom HaShoah, allowing the community to pay tribute to family members who perished in the Shoah or survived the atrocities of the Holocaust, came to Canada, and then passed away. Our mission reflects the importance of this year's theme, remembering the past, shaping the future, the importance of remembering the Holocaust. For the past 2 decades, Canada has recognized the importance of Holocaust commemoration. In 2003, the Government of Canada proclaimed its commitment to Holocaust remembrance, passing Bill C-459, an act to establish Holocaust Memorial Day on a national level. In September 2017, the Government of Canada inaugurated the National Holocaust Monument, which is right across the street from here. And we are so very proud of this initiative, as it represents yet another major step toward Holocaust remembrance. If you have a possible moment to go across the street and check it out, please do so. Remembering the Shoah is above all our tribute to the 6 million innocent Jewish victims of the Holocaust, whose fate should not be forgotten. Remembering the Holocaust is also a tribute to those who survived the horrors. As many survivors are now reaching their 80s and 90s, listening to them and remembering their stories becomes ever more urgent. Canadian Society for Yad Vashem works closely with the descendants of Holocaust survivors who will continue the survivors' historic mission to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive.
Les survivants de l'Holocauste ont commencé à mettre les fondements de leur mémoire de la Shoah. Ils sont devenus les premiers chercheurs dans le domaine, les fondateurs de ces musées et institutions commémoratives, les auteurs de mémoire. L'ampleur de leurs activités témoigne de leur profond dévouement à la Shoah et du sens de la mission historique, transmettre la vérité historique et préserver la mémoire de l'Holocauste.
Following World War II, most Holocaust survivors concentrated on rebuilding their lives in various countries, including the 40,000 who came to Canada. At today's ceremony, we honor the survivors who are with us and those who are no longer here. An important part of the survivors' stories happened in the aftermath of the Shoah. In last week's Canadian Jewish News, there was a powerful essay by Eva and Cheryl Sapiria, parts of which I would like to quote. This piece speaks to the heroism of the survivors. By all rules of nature, the survivors should have been completely destroyed, if not physically, then psychologically and spiritually. Given the scope of their losses, the torture to which they were subjected, the unbearable sights they witnessed, and the degradation imposed on them, they would have been forgiven for giving up on life altogether. But this was not the picture of the survivors, at least not as a collective. Without language, or money, or family to support them, they pulled strength from within and determined to make a better life. They took any jobs they could find, becoming furriers, tailors, fruit peddlers, house painters, and builders. They eventually bought homes, shared space with each other, and lent each other money. They cobbled together their own societies where they met and socialized and bonded with each other as surrogate family. They built synagogues and benevolent societies. They encouraged their children to value education. The response of the survivors of the Shoah to destruction was rebuilding. Nazism diminished the value of human life. The survivors affirmed it. They took a chance on life again. They chose to remarry and bring children into the world. And they did this despite the agonizing pain of their memories, despite the grief of losing beloved parents, siblings, spouses, and children, despite the nightmares that visited them when they closed their eyes in the darkness. Despite the Nazis' attempts to dehumanize the Jewish people, the survivors did not lose their ability to love, and they did not forfeit their essential values. They were the generation of despite. To the generation of survivors, we stand before you with a great sense of privilege and gratitude. You chose life. You deserve to be honored and thanked for your valor, spirit, and strength. We, your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, carry with pride your inspirational legacy of resilience. You are true heroes. The majority of Holocaust survivors after the war made Aliyah to Israel and helped build a modern and flourishing country. Today, we also mark Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, when we commemorate all those who gave their lives in defense of the State of Israel, which includes about 250 veterans of Canadian veterans who went over to volunteer and fight in the War of Independence.
Après la Seconde Guerre mondiale, beaucoup des survivants de l'Holocauste ont immigré en Israël. En même temps, plusieurs ont décidé de faire du Canada leur nouvelle patrie. Ils se sont rapidement intégrés à la nation multiculturelle canadienne, contribuant largement à son développement.
Today, we commemorate the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and honor Shoah survivors. It is our collective obligation to remember the Shoah, learn from its lessons, and defend the universal values of justice and respect of human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, will not be able to join us today as he is out of the country. However, in his stead, it is my great honour to introduce the Honourable Harjit Singh Sajjan, Minister of National Defence, who will speak on behalf of the Government of Canada. Go ahead, clap. You can clap. Minister Sajjan has served Canada and his community as both a soldier and a police officer. He continues his service to Canada as a Member of Parliament and as Minister of National Defence.
Ministre Sajjan est un lieutenant-colonel à la retraite des Forces armées canadiennes et un ancien combattant. Il a été déployé en Bosnie-Herzégovine et a servi à 3 reprises à Kandahar, en Afghanistan. Il a aussi reçu l'ordre du mérite militaire, l'une des plus hautes distinctions militaires. Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez accueillir l'Honorable Harjit Singh Sajjan, ministre de la Défense nationale.
Minister, Chief Justice, Mr. Speaker, Your Excellencies, and especially Ambassador Barkan, fellow members of the Cabinet, rabbis, clergymen, honorable justices of the Supreme Court, fellow members of Parliament, honorable senators, leaders of the opposition, and Ms. France Sunshine. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great privilege to represent the Prime Minister and the Government of Canada at this National Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony. It is even more of a greater privilege to do so in the presence of Holocaust survivors. On this day, we pay tribute to the 6 million innocent Jews who were murdered in Nazi death camps. Murdered for the simple fact of being Jewish. We remember their lives, we mourn their deaths, we vow to embody the creed of survivors and people everywhere, never again. Today's ceremony also gives us the opportunity to honor the work of survivors. Through extraordinary pain, they retell their stories and the stories of those who could not do so themselves. Through their commitment and sacrifice, we're able to teach younger generations about one of the darkest periods of human history. Several of those survivors are here with us today. And earlier this afternoon, many took part in the Ambassador of Change program. They shared their past with more than 250 students and teachers from Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto, and who are here with us today right now. Our gratitude extends equally to everyone who shared their stories. And unfortunately, I only have time to highlight the contributions of a few of them today. But the courage and strength of these individuals is representative of every survivor whose story I've had the honor of hearing throughout my years. Judy Young Drake lost almost her entire family in the Holocaust. She survived because her parents had the presence of mind to entrust her to a cousin from a mixed marriage just before they were deported to Auschwitz from their native Hungary. As an adult, she immigrated to Canada, where she contributed 30 years of distinguished public service. And that service centered on fighting racism and promoting tolerance through Canada's multiculturalism programs. And can you imagine a more fitting rebuttal of the hate that fueled the Holocaust? Not only has Judy shared her family's story with students in schools and universities, but for many years, she has fostered Holocaust education across Canada, and for that, we thank you. David Moskovich was born in Czechoslovakia. Between the ages of 10 to 15, he survived the Buna slave labor camp and the Buchenwald concentration camp. His story is a testament to human strength, the will to survive, and the extraordinary capacity of forgiveness. He has traveled to several cities in Canada to share his story with students and adults alike. He has contributed to the vital effort to capture first-person accounts of Holocaust stories before it is too late. For that, we thank you. Jessica Viskel, a Polish Jew, survived the Holocaust as a child by hiding in a barn dugout for 22 months. She bravely recounts her story with detail so poignant and heartbreaking. From long months spent in a dark hovel no bigger than a double bed, to her childhood dream of receiving an apple for her birthday. Her stories help us begin to understand the tragedy that she and other survivors endured. And for that, we thank you for sharing that story. The theme of this year's event is the importance of remembering. Every survivor who has told their story has done so with generous spirit, despite the pain it invokes. Every survivor who has told their story is helping to make sure we never forget. We as Canadians, in particular, must confront and never forget our own painful history, which is highlighted in a moving exhibit here at this museum today. It tells a story of Canada's refusal to welcome the 907 refugees who were fleeing the Holocaust aboard the MS St. Louis. It forces us to face the fact that our refusal resulted in the death of 254 of those innocent Jewish passengers. As painful as this story is to tell, we have a duty to teach it to our younger generations, today and always. You survived the worst of mankind and lived to represent the best of mankind. against all odds and with spectacular defiance towards those who tried to wipe out the Jewish people, you chose life. As survivors, you chose to rebuild your lives. You chose to come to Canada. You chose to live each day with compassion and love for others. You chose to contribute to every facet of Canadian society. And you chose to raise your children who would do the same. On this day of National Holocaust Remembrance, we pay tribute to the strength and resilience of the Jewish people and all those who have persevered against the horrors of the Holocaust. In this year, also, we mark the 70th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel and the symbol of hope and rebuilding that it represented for the Holocaust survivors and Jews around the world. In our lives, we vow to learn from the stories of the Holocaust and from this tragedy so that history will never repeat itself again. We cannot and we will not forget. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to stay up here. You're going to light a candle, okay? Thank you. Thank you, Minister, for that very moving, wonderful speech. Thank you.
Nous commençons maintenant la partie de la cérémonie où nous invitons des membres de notre gouvernement et des membres éminents de la communauté à allumer 6 bougies à la menorah, chaque bougie commémorant un élément important de l'Holocauste.
We now begin the portion of ceremony where we call upon members of our government and distinguished members of the community to light 6 candles on the menorah, each one commemorating an important element of the Holocaust. I now ask Lou Greenbaum, board member of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem, his grandson Kyle Goldenberg, and Esther Dream, National Executive Director of the Canadian Society, to join the minister in lighting the first candle on the menorah. Lou and his grandson represent 2nd generation and 4th generation of survivors. So, would you please come up? And this candle will be honoring, this first candle will be honoring the memory of the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Shoah. Okay, here we go.
Merci d'avoir allumé la première bougie en mémoire des 6 millions de Juifs assassinés dans la Shoah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Vachon on the violin and Nick Rogerson on the piano will be performing the instrumental theme from Unser Städtel brennt, Our Town is Burning, by Mordechai Gebertig. Mordechai Gebertig was born in 1877 in Krakow, Poland. He was a Jewish folk poet and songwriter. He wrote Unser Städtel brennt in 1936, following a pogrom in the Polish town of Shytyk. Gebertig was killed in June 1942 during a roundup for deportation from the Krakow ghetto. Lyrics will be displayed on the screen. Please read them carefully as the song prophesizes the impending Holocaust.
Merci beaucoup, Christian et Nick, pour cette interprétation émouvante. Merci.
It is now my great honor to introduce the Ambassador of Israel to Canada, His Excellency Nimrod Barkan. Ambassador Barkan is a 40-year veteran of Israeli diplomacy and policymaking. He has represented Israel in various positions, including as ambassador in the United States, Egypt, and France. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Barkan.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Minister of National Defense, Harjit Sajjan, Leader of the Opposition, Andrew Scheer, Supreme Court Justices, honored survivors, Madame and Messieurs, chers amis. As one exits the Holocaust Memorial at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, one is struck by the tranquility and peacefulness of the beautiful Jerusalem hills. The contrast between the dark, somber reality inside the memorial and the life and colors of the outside world exemplifies the essence of the two poles of 20th century Jewish history, attempted destruction and deliverance. The two poles are pronounced in the anthem of the Jewish partisans during the war years, expressing the hope that the metaphoric cloudy skies under which they lived will be replaced by sunshine and the rebuilding of the Jewish people. The rebuilding, manifested by the inspiring, mostly sunny and green Jerusalem hills, is the realization of the partisans' dreams and wishes. These were also the desires of the many Jewish children, women, and men who were horribly murdered or were unable to resist, as well as those who survived. Searching for a way out of their centuries of plight, some Jews hoped for divine deliverance. Others hoped that it will emerge through the brave new socialist world that would make the many nightmare years of anti-Semitism go away. Many tried integration and assimilation in their society. The brave new socialist world was plagued by anti-Semitism, which was on the verge of becoming lethal. The Holocaust demonstrated the difficulties of integration and assimilation in Europe, and at that time, even in North America. The Nazi regime decided to eliminate from the face of the earth two peoples, the Jews and the Roma. This was the unique nature of the Holocaust. No other nations were so systematically targeted then, and there was no divine deliverance. One of the inescapable legacies of the Holocaust is that the Jews of Europe were almost alone. Only a brave few wanted to assist them. Some of whom were diplomats from around the world, whose stories of heroism are told in the exhibition Beyond Duty, currently displayed here at the entrance of the museum, and as of next week in the Foreign Ministry, the Global Affairs Ministry here in Ottawa. Their actions also saved the lives of many Jews from Nazi extermination and were thus recognized by the State of Israel as righteous among nations. To them, and to all those who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust, we are eternally grateful. Too many others in Europe collaborated with the Nazi persecution and genocide. Still, many countries, Canada of course among them, as well as the Fighting Jewish Brigade from Eretz Israel, fought against Germany, and by winning the war at great cost and sacrifice, also saved the remnants of the Jewish people in Europe. 50% of German Jews were saved from the Holocaust, despite the failure of the Evian Conference and the closed-door policies of many countries. The important story of Jewish deliverance, of this particular Jewish deliverance, begins in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration and Britain's ensuing national home policy, which supported the right of the Jewish people to establish a national home in Eretz Israel. It was Zionism combined with British national home and Aliyah policy, despite objections, which kept the door open and made it possible to save half of German Jewry from the Holocaust, as well as Jews from other European countries who migrated to Palestine or Eretz Israel in the 20s and the 30s. Thus, since 1945, the Jewish people have been ever more determined to fulfill the Zionist dream, an independent, strong, and humanistic Jewish state in our ancient homeland. The legacy of the most important founder of the democratic Jewish state, David Ben-Gurion, is a state shelter for Jews that strives to be a light unto the nations in its deeds and achievements. As people who suffered from bigotry, fighting it and should be our shared commitment, both at home and abroad, working together towards this goal with all our friends, particularly Canada. For all the victims whose dreams are now fulfilled, we say the Hebrew prayers, Tehi nishmatam tzura b'tzor chaim. May their souls be bound in the bonds of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you so much for your good words. Please stay on the stage. With the following individuals, please join Ambassador Barkan on stage. The Right Honourable Richard Wagner, Chief Justice of Canada, and the Honourable Jeff Reagan, Speaker of the House. Will you please honour us by lighting the second candle in memory of the 1.5 million Jewish children who were murdered in the Holocaust?
Merci d'avoir allumé la deuxième bougie en mémoire de 1,5 million d'enfants juifs assassinés dans l'Holocauste. Merci.
The Hebrew Foundation School from Montreal, who we heard before with the anthem, will now perform Walk to Caesarea, also known by its opening words, Eli, Eli, which means my God, my God. The poem was written in 1942 by the Hungarian Jewish resistance fighter Hannah Senes. During World War II, Hannah enlisted in the British Air Force. In 1944, she parachuted into Yugoslavia near the Hungarian border to rescue Jews. Hannah was captured and executed by a firing squad in Nazi-occupied Hungary.
השמיים
beautiful. Thank you so much to all of our members of the Hebrew Foundation School for generously giving of their time and their talents to sing so beautifully at our ceremony. Your voices uplift us all. Thank you for being here. Felicia Carmeli is a Holocaust survivor from Transnistria. At the age of 10, Felicia experienced cruel deportation and a death march, followed by 3 years of devastation and the death of 36 family members in the Holocaust. Felicia and her parents miraculously survived the atrocities of the Shoah. In 1959, the family immigrated to Israel. 3 years later, they immigrated to Canada, where they rebuilt their lives.
En 1994, à Toronto, Felicia, une femme incroyable qui, même aujourd'hui à 87 ans, est pleine d'énergie et pleine de sagesse, a fondé l'Association des survivants de Transnistrie. Et en 1997, elle a publié une anthologie intitulée Shattered, 50 Years of Silence, History and Voices of the Tragedy in Romania and Transnistria, afin d'immortaliser le cimetière oublié de Transnistrie.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Felicia Carmeli, who will share with her firsthand experience of the Holocaust and a rare story of survival.
Oh, this light is terrible. How did you all manage with this light? Well, greetings to all of you who participate in this extremely important event today. Since I have only a few minutes for my speech, the best I can do is refer you to some resources that will enable you to find the information that I would dearly love to talk about if I had more than a few minutes, but I don't. I'm a survivor of the Transnistria concentration camps. Transnistria was a piece of land almost as large as our province of Nova Scotia. Can I please see a show of hands? Who heard the word Transnistria before today? Well, I'm impressed. About 10 in this whole room. That's good, but it's not enough. Transnistria, even though it was geographically the largest killing field in the Holocaust, is not recognized, and it's considered by most people as the forgotten cemetery, because after the closing of the camp in 1944, when we were liberated by the Soviet army, the Russians tried to camouflage everything that happened there, and all the crimes that were perpetrated against the Jews in Transnistria were wiped up or covered and as never to be seen again. I mean, on top of the mass graves, they built parks or apartment buildings or skating rinks and so forth. So there's nothing to be seen there. The people who have survived from the Transnistria camp can never have, what's it called, the people who go to Poland with their youth? March of the Living. Thank you so much. You're great. So we can never have a March of the Living because there's nothing to see in Transnistria. Absolutely nothing. And if there is a monument somewhere, it doesn't say anything about the Jews living there. It says, here, 300,000 Soviet citizens were murdered. So it doesn't mention that that 90% of them or more even were Jewish. Anyway, in Transnistria, 500,000 people were murdered, and the victims of this murder were Jews deported from Romania, local Ukrainian Jews, gypsies, physically and mentally handicapped, and a large number of Romanian clergy accused of being against the Nazi ideology. When you have a few minutes, please go to Wikipedia or Google and type in Transnistria during World War II. This is the resource that I talked about before. I'll give you this for you to, if you go home and if you're interested in this horrific story, which is the Forgotten Cemetery, please go and Google Transnistria during World War II. To put Transnistria during World War II is extremely important because, unluckily, in 1990, another piece of land much smaller than the Transnistria during World War II was called by some people Transnistria. So when you only put Transnistria without World War II, you will find the one of 1990, which has nothing to do with the Holocaust. So to remember is Transnistria during World War II. On a personal level, in 1941, when we were deported from Romania to Transnistria, I was 10 years old. I lost 36 members of my family in these camps. My parents survived, but remained chronically depressed for the rest of their lives. During our 3.5 years in Transnistria, we were exposed day and night to the whim of the vicious Romanian soldiers and the Ukrainian police. They could decide to have a mass shooting in the middle of the night. They could herd us from village to village until most people died of exhaustion, starvation, thirst, or freezing. Or a fatal beating in honor of Christmas, Easter, or Sunday could happen. Death was surrounding us all the time. Some people begged to be shot to finish their suffering. But the guard said, "They will not waste a bullet for a Jew. He will die anyway, if not today, tomorrow." And he was right. In 1961, Canada embraced my family, and I embraced Canada. With the freedom and opportunities here, I studied and created several interesting careers, educational, psychological, and I authored 2 books about Transnistria. The fact that I authored these books gave me the opportunity to travel to different countries and speak about Transnistria. I did not have an easy life, but my life was full of challenges, which gave me the opportunity to grow intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Now that our departure as embodiment of the Holocaust is speeding up, I'm urging you, the newer generation, to become the guardians of the memory of the Holocaust. Be brave enough to create a world where innocent people can live with each other in friendship, respect, and peace. Thank you. Get me down.
Get you down, get you down. She wants us to get her down. Ladies and gentlemen, would you kindly turn your attention to the video monitors to watch a testimony, Across the Rivers of Memory, by Felicia Carmelli. We are very grateful to the Israeli Foundation for providing us with the video.
I think that survivors, that this sorrow, this tragedy that we experienced is on the background of our life on a daily basis. I mean, we try very hard to lead normal lives, and externally we look pretty normal, but internally this is an unending, impossible to attend to sorrow that we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives. My name is Felicia Carmelli. The name of my book is Across the Rivers of Memory. I was born on September the 25th, 1931. I was born in Romania, in a resort town in the Carpathian Mountains. The name of the town was Vatra Dornei. My father owned the store and my mother helped out in the store, especially on Thursday when it was market day. My life changed in 1939 when the war started, and we heard all kinds of rumors from what is happening in Poland, and we weren't sure what's true and what is exaggerated. But we knew that something is going on which is not. But in all the European countries, the Jews always said, it's not going to happen to us. We are in better relations with the Christians around us. It's not going to happen to us. But it happened to us all. The persecution of Jews became stronger. Like every day in front of City Hall, a youth of the fascist organization came out and he poked the drums to get people together, and he wrote an edict for the day, what Jews can or cannot do as of that day. So one day it was a curfew. We were only allowed on the streets from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. At any other time, if we were caught on the street, we would be shot. No trial, no nothing. Another day it was we have to wear the yellow star. And this went on and on and on. Every day was something else that we were not allowed to do. So life became more condensed every single day. I invented all kinds of games, which I played. But in retrospect, when I thought back about it when I became an adult, I guess, I remembered scenes when some people were praying in the car, other people were singing, other people were falling into sleep or subconscious or unconsciousness, like sort of to because they couldn't take it in. Some people were banging with their fists at the walls of the cars. It's just about everybody did whatever to express the helplessness that we didn't know where we're going, when we're going, what for we're going, and it was a total feeling of. I guess I can't find another word, but total helplessness, and not knowing where you are, who you are, what you are, whatever you were before has been wiped out.
After 3 grueling days, we reached a little town on the shore of the river Dniester called Ataki. We were told that we would remain there for a few days. Once a thriving Jewish town, Ataki was bombed out and in total ruins. Not a single resident who had lived there before the war could be found. The soldiers let us out of the train and ordered us to go out and seek shelter, wherever we could find it. In one of the houses, we found 2 rooms where the ceilings were relatively intact to shelter us from the freezing rain and snow. The next day, my mother decided to take me to the river to clean up after our hellish 3 days journey. In her mind, it was a bigger risk to go on so filthy than to be caught by the soldiers guarding us. I was looking forward to feeling clean once again. We went to the river very early in the morning, hoping the soldiers would still be asleep. It was barely light outside. When we got to the water, we were horrified by the gruesome sight that we encountered. Dead bodies and limbs of people and horses and torn up bloody Jewish prayer books and Torah scrolls were scattered all over. Mother somehow mustered up the strength to wash herself and me despite this. On our way back to where the rest of the family was, the soldiers spotted us and started shooting. We both fell to the ground and began crawling, my mother on top of me so the bullets wouldn't hit me. We managed to stumble into a dark cave to hide. After our eyes adapted to the darkness, we saw some writing on the walls in Hebrew. Painted in blood on the stone walls, the writing said, "Please say Kaddish for the many people who were murdered here."
I feel offended and hurt when people talk about all the other camps, and Transnistria is rarely, if ever, mentioned. Because for me, and I suppose for other survivors, it is like killing us all over again. The Holocaust is always in our background, and we will take it to our grave. And what will happen to our memories after we're gone, only God knows.
Is it me? Thank you so very much, Felicia. It's a great story, and it was wonderful to see you there. Just an added little story about Felicia. I guess it's a small world. In 1995, my parents did a Shoah testimony for the Shoah Foundation where they told their stories. And the interviewer was Felicia Carmelli. So it's funny, things come around. And she was great. She got elicited all kinds of interesting things from their stories, and she was a wonderful, wonderful interviewer. You're welcome. Felicia's memoirs will be available in the foyer after the ceremony. I would like to now invite Israel Maida, a Yad Vashem board member and second-generation Holocaust survivor, to share with us his personal story of the Holocaust.
I stand here proud, as the son of Holocaust survivors, to tell you my story. My father was from Soroczk, a small shtetl near Warsaw, and my mother was from Melitopol, a town in Soviet Ukraine near the Black Sea. When I was a young boy, my parents told me we had no family, that they had all died in the Holocaust, that my father lost 53 family members in the ghettos and in the death camps, that 24 members of my mother's family were murdered by the Nazi Einsatzgruppe group and killing squad, who in one day marched over 5,000 Jews from her town into the forest and shot them one by one. Only 15 years before I was born, a mere moment of time, all of my family members were alive, living pious, religious lives, and bothering no one. Why then did they all have to die just because they were Jewish? Only my mother's brother met a different fate. He was in university in Kharkov, Ukraine, when the Nazis attacked the Soviet Union in June of 1941. Stalin decided to send him and all the Soviet boys in university to the front line with absolutely no military training at all, to act as human shields for his army. So my mother's brother died on the Leningrad front. He was the only member of my family to die fighting against the Nazis. My mother's brother's name was Israel. And while I would have given anything to meet him, I have always been deeply honored to be named after him. In the past 20 years, I have been on a journey, a personal journey, to reclaim the memory of the family that I lost. So far, my journey has included tape recording my parents' life stories of survival, including their coming to Canada, entering the names of my lost loved ones in the Yad Vashem Victims Database, where today over 4.3 million names are recorded, establishing a monument in their memory in the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem's memorial site in Earl Bales Park in Toronto, helping publish an English translation of the Yizkor book of my father's hometown, and traveling to my father's hometown to walk its streets, view its desecrated Jewish cemetery, and search for family records in the City Hall Records Office. Here is one of the records that I found. It is the birth record of my father's younger brother, Yechezkel Maida, born in 1923. The record is handwritten, and the copy I am holding up in front of you has the actual signature of my father's father, B'Tzalel Maida. The Zeta I never knew, but now I am holding him tightly in my hands. My 20-year journey is not over. When it is safe to travel there, I will visit my mother's town in Ukraine, and I will march the path through the forest to the grave of her family and say Kaddish, the Jewish memorial prayer, to honor the memory of my beloved family. And so, Mom and Dad, we are not alone. We do have a family. Hitler may have taken their lives, but he can never take their good names. He can never take their signatures, and he can never take your memories of them, and he can never take the memory of them which I have reclaimed. And when the day comes when it is time for me to walk through the gates into the next world, I will hold my head up high as I am reunited with my lost family in the next world. And I will say to them, I did not forget you. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. We are now delighted to welcome Andrew Scheer, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and leader of the official opposition.
Mesdames et Messieurs, l'Honorable Andrew Scheer.
Distingués invités, survivants, collègues et amis, I am so deeply honored to stand before you to deliver these remarks, especially in the presence of survivors of the Holocaust. I don't know if there's much I can say about what we just heard from Felicia and Israel. Those testimonies that you gave were so moving, and the tragedies that you outlined and you described stand in such stark contrast. The dedication that you and thousands like you here in Canada continue to strive to make sure that future generations of Canadians always remember what happened. Since the establishment of the National Holocaust Memorial Day in 2003, we have gathered each year to honor the 6 million Jewish lives that were lost in the Holocaust. Chaque année, nous faisons une pause pour nous souvenir de toutes les vies qui ont été fauchées par le régime Nazi. And we take a moment to imagine what it must have been like to endure such an atrocity. And yet we come to realize that it is impossible for some of us to comprehend the terror, the isolation, and desperation that must have been felt by every Jewish woman, man, and child across Europe. And so each year, in their honor, we affirm our commitment to ensure that such crimes never happen again. Never again is a vow that is used in reference to the Holocaust at times like these when we gather in reflection. Pourtant, au cours des 73 ans depuis l'Holocauste, nous n'avons jamais réussi à tenir cet engagement. The Jewish community, however, remains the most frequently targeted religious minority when it comes to hate crimes. Vandalism at synagogues and other Jewish sites remains too common. Jewish life is an integral thread in Canada's cultural fabric. It has been since before Confederation, and it always will be. That is why it is imperative that we continue to remember the horrors of the Holocaust and to make sure that future generations never forget what happened. Et pour que tous ceux qui ont fait du Canada leur patrie, définissons nos valeurs pluralistes et démocratiques, sachant qu'ils sont en sécurité ici dans notre pays. It is our duty to learn the lessons of the past so that we can pass on the torch to our children. We must not let the stories and testimonies of survival, heroism, and valor be erased from our history. We cannot allow them to be forgotten as the years pass by, as we lose the human links we still have to these tragic events. Our children must learn to stand against acts rooted in prejudice and in ignorance. And that is why Canada's Conservatives supported critical works of memory like the Canadian Museum of Human Rights in Winnipeg, the National Holocaust Memorial here in Ottawa, and the March of the Living Digital Archive project. And it is why our support for Israel is unequivocal. We will always defend Israel's fundamental right to exist as a homeland for the Jewish people and stand against any attempt to delegitimize it as a nation. Et c'est pourquoi nous nous sommes engagés à aider ceux qui font face à la persécution et à la brutalité en raison de leur ethnie ou de leur religion, comme nous l'avons fait par les Yézidis et les chrétiens victimes du groupe État islamique. We cannot let the same movements, hatred, and expressions of evil creep back into our society. L'intolérance et la haine infondée envers d'innocentes minorités religieuses n'ont pas leur place dans notre monde. So, as we commemorate those who perished, let us renew our commitment to always fight for the fundamental rights of men and women, not only in Canada, but across the world. And let us rededicate ourselves to protecting Canada's timeless values of freedom, democracy, and religious tolerance. Thank you, merci.
Whoops, it's much taller. Thank you, Mr. Scheer. Please stay on the stage. Thank you for your very wonderful words. May I ask the following cabinet ministers to join Mr. Scheer on the stage? The Honourable Jim Carr, Minister of Natural Resources, the Honourable Mariam Monsef, Minister of Status of Women, the Honourable Jody Wilson-Raybould, Minister of Justice, Attorney General of Canada. Will you all please light the third candle on the menorah in honor of the Holocaust survivors who have courageously rebuilt their lives after the Holocaust. Somebody's notes.
Merci d'avoir allumé la troisième bougie en l'honneur des survivants de l'Holocauste qui, avec beaucoup de courage, ont bâti leur vie après l'Holocauste.
We would now like to welcome Mr. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP.
Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez s'il vous plaît accueillir Monsieur Jagmeet Singh.
It's an incredible honor for me to be here today. I would like to thank the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem for inviting me and bringing us all together today to listen to the stories of survivors, to learn from the heinous acts of inhumanity that were made in history, and to remember the victims of the Holocaust. Yad Vashem does incredibly important work in Holocaust remembrance and leadership against anti-Semitism. And I just want to acknowledge all the dignitaries that are here today, but I particularly want to acknowledge the courage of Felicia Carmeli and Israel Maida in sharing their stories. Hearing those personal stories remind us of how devastating and how heinous these acts have in the history of our world, and how they have left such an impact. And those stories are what we need to remember always. C'est une lutte pleine de nous rappeler la haine et la peur qui ont mené au meurtre systématique de plus de 6 millions de Juifs européens et des millions d'autres. Mais nous avons tous et toutes la responsabilité d'écouter le récit, de connaître l'histoire et les faits de l'Holocauste, so that the world never forgets of the need to stand against hatred of all kinds, of hatred in all its forms, and never again experience the pain and horror that it creates. Sadly, horrifyingly, we have seen a resurgence in hatred in the recent years. Anti-Semitic speech and intolerance is increasing across the world. We're seeing it particularly in Europe and here at home. Statistics Canada is reporting increases in hate crimes. As previously has been stated, synagogues have been targeted in communities across countries. Our recent survey found in the United States that, quote, Holocaust is fading from memory, end quote. And this is deeply, deeply worrisome. When we forget these lessons and the unthinkable consequences of hatred, we risk creating a climate for it to grow again. Hate's cruelty doesn't pick and choose. It hurts all of us. I believe hate is like a fire. Once it is allowed to grow, it spreads, consuming everything and everyone. Quand une forme de haine prend l'importance, cela permet à d'autres formes de haine d'émerger et de s'enraciner. La haine déhumanise les victimes. Elle rend la violence et le génocide beaucoup plus faciles pour ceux qui le commettent. La douleur, la souffrance et les traumatismes que la haine produit peuvent laisser des traces qui perdurent de génération en génération. That's why we must call out bigotry and discrimination wherever it appears and challenge it before it spreads. That is the vital lesson that the act of remembering the Holocaust drives home. To stand up to hate, we need to build a society that's welcoming and inclusive, that takes in and protects people who are facing persecution just because of how they look, what they believe on, who they love, who they are. As previously mentioned, here in the Canadian War Museum, we're reminded of the passengers of the MS St. Louis who were denied safety from the horrors of the Holocaust by Canada, by a Canada that would not stand up for them. We failed those refugees and we failed ourselves. We let hate win. We must never let that win again. L'histoire canadienne est pleine d'exemples douloureux de ce qui arrive quand on ne protège pas ceux et celles qui font face à ce type d'injustice. Même les plus petits actes de discours haineux et de vandalisme peuvent suffire pour stimuler des actes encore plus cruels. Si nous ne faisons rien quand nous voyons nos voisins être la cible de la discrimination, alors nous sommes des complices de cette haine. In fact, when we remember the overwhelming loss of the Holocaust, in that act of remembering, we ensure that we are on a path of building a better world. That is why we must remember and honor the names of everyone that was lost. We must remember the 6 million Jews that were murdered and the millions of others who were killed. It is our collective responsibility as a world to remember. That is why we must reject and condemn anti-Semitism wherever it rears its ugly head, everywhere and anywhere. And that is why we must continue to remind the world, never again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Please remain on the stage. I'd like to now ask Supreme Court Justice, the Honourable Russell Brown, to come on stage on behalf of the judges with Mr. Singh. Would you please light the fourth candle on the menorah in tribute to the partisans, ghetto fighters, members of the resistance and allied armed forces who fought valiantly against the Nazis and their collaborators in the Holocaust.
Merci d'avoir allumé une bougie en hommage aux partisans, aux combattants des ghettos, aux membres de la résistance et des forces alliées qui ont lutté contre les nazis et leurs collaborateurs pendant l'Holocauste. Merci.
The Hebrew Foundation School will now perform Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael is a daily prayer for Jews proclaiming their faith in God. It is considered to be one of the central prayers of Judaism. During the Holocaust, Shema Yisrael was pronounced by millions of Jews as their very last words before they were murdered.
love, he whispered. Please don't let me fail. As he began to sing, Shema Yisrael, Shema, Shema Yisrael. Know that there is but one God above. When you feel pain, when you rejoice, know how he longs to hear your voice. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Shema, Shema Yisrael. Know that there is but one God above. When we feel pain, when we rejoice, know how he longs to hear our voice. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad.
Okay, that was very, very beautiful. What a beautiful interpretation. Thank you so much. I don't think it was what we expected, but it was certainly fantastic. Thank you. It is now my honor to introduce Rabbi Reuven Bulka, the spiritual leader since 1967 of Ottawa's Machazikai Hadass congregation, to deliver the Dvar Torah, a sermon that draws inspiration from the Torah. Rabbi Bulka is a man of many prodigious talents, a good friend to us, an author of 30 books and countless articles, a host of his own radio show, and a dedicated grassroots volunteer who regularly heads up and participates in a variety of charitable events for the benefit of the Ottawa community and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rabbi Reuven Bulka.
Thank you very much, Fran and Bruce. Distinguished everyone who is here, primarily survivors, and I just can imagine that for them the greatest strength they get today is from hearing the younger generation, the sweet voices of tomorrow here today. What unites us as we gather here today is the theme of life, of Chaim. In Hebrew, the word life, in plural, Chaim, in singular, Chaim. Life is singular and plural at the same time. Every life is potential for so many others. We are today, ironically, in a unique moment in history. The Hebrew equivalent for the word for life, which is chai, is 18. Now, here we are today on April the 18th in the year 2018, which is not that remarkable that would happen. It happens once every 100 years or so that the year ends with the 18 and there's the 18th of the 18. What is remarkable and probably has never happened is this is also the 18th day in the counting of the Omer. The Omer, which connects together Passover and Pentecost, Pesach and Shavuot, bringing together the escape from Egypt, from slavery, from being enslaved, to being able to embrace our values through acceptance of the Torah, from freedom to responsibility. This is something that doesn't happen that often, this 18-18-18 configuration. And the connection between where we are today and where we were thousands of years ago is also something that shouldn't be lost on us. 600,000 Israelites left Egypt, according to the Torah Chronicle. 6 million were lost during the Shoah. And yet, as we gather here today, the theme is life, 18. Whether it's life in form of trying to resurrect the memory of the past that so many evildoers tried to snuff out. We are here today not only to say that there is a vibrant future awaiting us, but also that the past will not be taken away from us. So that theme of Chai, triple Chai, is surrounding us as we gather here today. We also recognize that there were lessons learned then that have become very much part of our DNA. We left Egypt, and after that we got a set of laws. We know that as the Torah, which includes so many references to our experience in Egypt. Just for one simple example, the Torah tells us that when we lend money, we're not allowed to charge interest, for the simple reason that we have to remember that we were once in Egypt and we can't take advantage of people. We were on the other side, taken advantage of. We can't be perpetrators after we were once victims. We have to learn the lessons. We're also told that wherever we are, we have to love the stranger because we were strangers in Egypt. In other words, the lesson that we get from the Torah is the worst of experiences, we have to transmute them into the best of life lessons. And we do so today as we gather, hearing testimonies and realizing that we have this obligation to do today what our ancestors did so many years ago. One of the things that we hear all around us today because of safety precautions is, if you see something, say something. But today, we have another motto, which is, if you hear something, do something. If you hear anything that is evil or hateful, don't just walk away, but do something about it. Make sure you do not let evil germinate. Make sure you do not let hate have any respectability. Better yet, what we should be doing is teaching love, teaching respect, teaching coexistence. Yes, to teach and to affirm life. On this day of 18, to embrace life, to say to each other, to say to all of Canada, and to say to the entire world, L'chaim, we are here to affirm life. Thank you.
Merci, Rabbi Bolka.
Rabbi Bolka, will you do us the honor of lighting the fifth candle on the menorah in tribute to the righteous among the nations, non-Jews who risked their lives and the lives of their families to rescue Jews during the Holocaust? And I would like to ask the following individuals to join Rabbi Bolka to light the fifth candle: Jim Watson, Mayor of Ottawa; Michael Levitt, Member of Parliament and a good friend of the Yad Vashem; Richard Marceau, sponsor of Bill C-459; Israel Maida, board member of Canadian Society for Yad Vashem. Okay.
Merci d'avoir allumé la bougie en l'honneur des justes parmi les nations, ces non-juifs qui ont risqué leur vie pour sauver des juifs persécutés au cours de l'Holocauste.
I now ask Felicia Carmelli to light the sixth candle on the menorah, and I ask Holocaust survivors who participated in the Ambassador of Change program to join us on stage. Ellie Bolograf, Felicia Carmelli, Tova Clark, Vera Gara, Nestor Hobe, Agnes Klein, Renata Krakauer, Kathy Morrison, David Moskovich, Judy Young. And I will also ask one member per organization who represents the Zachor Coalition also come up onto the stage. Someone from B'nai B'rith Canada, Canadian Jewish Political Affairs Committee, CJPAC, Canadian Race Relations Foundation, Canadian Hadassah Witzo, Center for Holocaust Education and Scholarship, Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, Canada, Lodger Center Congregation, Jewish Federation of Ottawa, Jewish War Veterans of Ottawa, of Canada, Ottawa Post,
Emunah Canada, Facing History in Ourselves, Historica Canada, Musée de l'Holocauste de Montréal, Namat Canada, Marimoresha Society, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Canada, and the Memory Project.
Yeah, hi. So good to see all of you. This is wonderful. Thank you very much. As you come up, while you're making way to the stage, allow me to mention the schools that participated in our Ambassadors of Change program just prior to the ceremony. Alexander Galt High School, the Ashbury College, English Montreal School Board, Focus High School, Glen Forest Secondary School, Havergal College, James Ling High School, John F. Kennedy High School, Maryville High School, Mile End High School, Lester B. Pearson Catholic, Outreach, Rosemont, Royal Vale, St. Mark High School, St. Paul Catholic Secondary School. We thank all the educators from the schools across Ontario and Canada who brought their students to the ceremony for your commitment to Zachor Remembrance. And will all the students in the audience please stand up while we light the 6th candle? There you go.
Merci d'avoir allumé la 6e bougie en l'honneur des générations futures qui portent le flambeau de souvenirs de l'Holocauste.
Thank you to all of you. Okay. Kel Mele Rachamim is a Jewish prayer for the souls of those who have passed away. Please rise for the Kel Mele Rachamim and remain standing for the Kaddish and moment of silence that will follow. It is a great honor to have Cantor Levinson sing the Kel Mele Rachamim, followed with Kaddish prayers recited by Jews mourning the loss of loved ones. Ladies and gentlemen, Cantor Levinson.
Hail, Mole Rachamim, Shoycheine Bameromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Ale Kanefei Ashechino, B'mahalot, קדושים טהורים וגיבורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. לנשמת אחינו ואחיותינו, 6,000,000 יהודים, אנשים, נשים, ילדים וילדות, שנהרגו ושנשחטו ושנשרפו חיים ושנטבעו ושנחנקו ובידי הנאצים יימח שמם וזכרם לקידוש השם. בעבור שיהנו מתפללים לעילוי נשמותיהם בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם לכן בא לו רחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם אדוני ונחלתם וינוחו בשלום על משכבם ונאמר אמן. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי בימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Just have a moment of silence, please. Rabbi Bolka, will you please come to the stage to blow the shofar? You can be seated now. Thank you. I would like to take this occasion to thank the survivors, dignitaries, and all of our guests for joining us in commemorating the Holocaust. I once again would like to thank our donors, Andrea and Brian Kasoy, the Government of Canada, the RBC Foundation, Fasken and Edward Sunshine for their generous support of the ceremony and the Ambassador's Change program.
La Société canadienne de Yad Vashem souhaite également remercier le Musée canadien de la guerre et son personnel qui nous ont si bien accueillis.
And I want to give a special thank you to my partner, Bruce Kent, devoted friend of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem. Not only for his commitment to Holocaust and education and commemoration, but for doing an outstanding job as my French partner. And of course, the ceremony would not have come together without the hard work of Esther Driem, the National Executive Director, and the staff of the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem. Yuval Cohen, the Development and Administration Coordinator, Josh Hacker, Program and Development Officer, Ekaterina Laurie, Stewardship and Development Officer, and Idalet Martins, Development and Prospecting Officer. Thank you for your huge work. It's an enormous undertaking, and you did an outstanding job. Thank you very much. Following Hatikva, please make your way to the foyer for a reception with refreshments. There you can help yourselves to the Holocaust survivors' memoirs that were so generously donated by the Azrieli Foundation. Please note that the buses, which were sponsored by the Canadian Society for Yad Vashem, will be leaving at 6 for Toronto and Montreal. Please rise for Hatikva.
Veuillez, s'il vous plaît, vous lever pour le Hatikva.
Thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the reception sponsored by Yad Vashem and have a very safe trip home. See you again next year.
We've got this down.
Yeah, well, I tell you.